today's show is going to be, which is what's Tennessee's season going to look like this year, right? The 2025 season for your, I'm not going to say the because they don't deserve the Tennessee, but we'll just say your Tennessee Volunteers.
And they are completely yours. For all the Volunteer fans out there, they're yours. We want nothing to do with them.
Not this year. Not at all.
In a world where left is up and right is apparently wrong, do souls make sense of it all? Or at least have fun trying. Gear up, friends, for Chicken and the Dawg.
Welcome to another episode of Chicken and the Dawg. I am the dog, and with me, as always, is the guy that is completely devastated that Nico will not be playing in the SEC this season. The Chicken. What up, dog?
I am so broken. Nico. What have you done? You volunteered to send these guys into an absolute oblivion.
Oh, my God. It is not going to be good. And look, man, that kind of brings us up, kind of teases us up of what we're going to, our main topic of today's show is going to be, which is what's Tennessee's season going to look like this year, right? The 2025 season for your, I'm not going to say the because they don't deserve the Tennessee, but we'll just say your Tennessee Volunteers.
And they are completely yours. For all the Volunteer fans out there, they're yours. We want nothing to do with them.
Not this year. Not at all. But before we do, we got a couple things I want to talk about. One, I think is very exciting. We kind of teased this thing, but we kind of tweaked it a little bit before. I know you guys look forward to the chicken scratch that we do every episode, right? So we're trying to figure out something for the dog. What can the dog do? And at first, I think we talked about the dog bite, but now we're going to switch it to the dog bark because we've had such a growing number of comments from all of these listeners, whether via TikTok or YouTube or these other sites that's on there, on our takes of different things, and they've been great. And keep them coming. We love them. So we thought it would be a good segment to be able to do that on every show is go over some of these comments, and we're going to call them the dog bark. So this is actually your first dog bark brought to you by Chicken and the Dawg. So who doesn't like the chicken and the dog? So one of the reels that we did a couple of weeks ago, one of the episodes a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to go back to this, was the Texas versus Ohio State game. We had a lot of comments about this game, and I'm just going to read a few of them, and we'll talk about those comments, right? So one of the, hang on, I don't think that's right. Hold it. Sorry, I don't know what to do with my hands. Sorry, I had this earlier, man, and age and technology for some reason don't go hand in hand. I don't know why. Wow. But anyway, so we had a comment on there. I said, I think Arch is going to show out and pull out the win, but I think it's going to be a great game. A guy named Donnie Glaciers says, he's referring to you, Chicken. He says, I see what he's saying about Texas O-line. However, Ohio State lost its entire D-line. So it's new versus new. So I'm going to let you comment because I know that you want to say something about that.
This is Donnie.
This is Donnie.
Donnie, welcome to your education. I appreciate your making the comment. And unlike some of our previous comments, you're actually putting something on the table that's got some merit here. So congratulations. You are automatically at the head of the class, but you're still on the short bus. But there's hope for you. You may graduate to the advanced class here pretty soon.
He's on his way.
He's on his way. He's got a good thesis, but I'm about to blow holes in it. Yes, it is new versus new. However, if you face your program, and Donnie, I don't know who you pull for, so I'm just going to ask the dog in your stead. Dog, you're going to play Donnie in this segment. It's a learning opportunity for all of our faithful listeners and my students, okay? So you're going to play the role of the student Donnie here. If your favorite program, the Georgia Bulldogs, was faced with an option, you can come into next season with a brand new offensive line that has never played a snap together, or a brand new defensive front that's never played a snap together. Which would you prefer? Just the answer, and I'll go into depth as to why my logic is superior and sound.
Defense.
Amen. Good for you, dog. You've left the short bus. It's taken you a while.
Yes.
But you're off the bus. You're not on a new one yet. You're standing on the curb because you might fall back in. We'll have to wait and see about that. But Donnie, here's what I want to say to you. A defensive pass rush has one job. Blow through the O-line in whatever way you can. Now, do they have stunts? Do they run different things for a rushing defense as opposed to a pass attack? Of course they do. Of course they do. However, every single snap offensively, that O-line has to be in lockstep unison. You have to have that experienced chemistry between that five-man front. You don't have to have that between the 3 or 4 down linemen that you've got on defense. You just have to have some studs that can find a way to get past that O-line. But that O-line has to work together. So, given the choice, given the wager, I'm picking the new defensive front over the new offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really, really solid point. Not unexpected solid point from you. It was expected. There's no doubt about that. But if you think about it, like you said, man, the defensive guys, don't get me wrong, they play schemes and this, but they're kind of on their own, right? They're kind of their own machine out there. But if the offensive line is not locking step with each other in unison, coming together, oh my gosh, you leave up a hole that could get your quarterback these days killed.
Well, and listen, coming into this game, there are a lot of studs on this defensive front for Ohio State.
Oh, for sure.
With a lot of experience. So
Caleb Downs,
Caden McDonald. I mean, these guys are coming in and they're going to be hungry because, yes, they lost a lot to graduation in the NFL last year. Absolutely. But these guys are chomping at the bit. It's their turn and they're ready to make a blast. That's what they're ready to do. They're going to show that Arch Manning means nothing to them. They'll put whomever at quarterback on the ground that they're playing against. That's what they're hungry for. That's what I expect. Now, does that translate into a win in my mind? Hold up, swole up. Not necessarily. Because just like we said last episode, I think Texas, when it all settles out, is going to be more than Ohio State has. But this is going to be an amazing ball game. But well done, Donnie. Welcome to the class.
Yeah. You also got to think, I say that Texas has got the leg up, and my gut tells me that they do, and I don't think that's my SEC gut. I think that is going to be the difference between coaching. I think Sark is a better coach than Ryan Day. There's no doubt about that. But I'm also going to say that I think Arch is going to could be the difference maker in there. That little bit of experience versus Julian Sayin being right out the gate. There's no doubt about that. However, this thing is going to be played. It's week 1. It's not at a neutral site. It's in Columbus, Ohio. Ohio State fans, the alum, the people of the Ohio State are not going to allow to happen what happened in South Bend, Indiana in 2017 when Georgia rolled up to South Bend and there was more red and black in that stadium than there was Irish colors. Ohio State's not going to allow that to happen at all. I think Texas is going to – they're going to be hard-pressed to have 10% people in that stadium.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to make a difference, man. Week 1, people pumped up. It's going to be one heck of a game.
Absolutely.
Another comment on there, it was a guy from Logan, Ohio State, 28-21. I can buy that.
Sure.
I could get behind that. That's a potential good score. This guy, although I love his name, I almost want to shed a tear because the name is that perfect. It is biggest Chicken and the Dog fan. That's the guy's handle. I don't agree with you. I love you, but I don't agree with you. He's got Ohio State 42-27. Not happening.
He must be young. That's what we have. This is a youngster who just doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
Welcome to the short bus. I'll do my best. I give you no hope. I don't know that if I'm good enough to bring you out of whatever stupor you are in.
So that lead, there was a couple comments to that. It says, this one guy named Trey Templeton, stupid take. You have a quarterback with no experience, and Ohio State ain't known for a Heisman quarterbacks. You're finna, that he must be from the South.
Finna, yep.
Get your behind whooped. Now, Trey, actually, I know you're chomping out the bit about this one about quarterbacks and Heisman and from Ohio State. So I'm just gonna let you handle that one.
You're sure? It is the bark.
I'm gonna let you have your take on that one.
Okay. Trey, welcome to class. You are now in the back row. There's plenty of room for improvement, obviously. And it is a shorter bus, so it shouldn't take you that long if you pay attention to get to the front. Maybe even do like the dog did and exit the short bus for our advanced course. But let's just analyze this step by step. Quarterback with no experience. Like Arch.
Correct.
I mean, you can't really say, at what point do we say that a quarterback's experienced? After 3 starts, 4 starts, 6 starts a season? Now, please don't hear me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the talent that we all believe Arch Manning is and will prove himself to be. But the whole, this guy's got experience, that guy doesn't argument doesn't really hold for me right now until both of these quarterbacks, Salen and Manning, get some more snaps and some more game time experience under their belt. So let's just call it what it is. At this point, neither is experienced. Second, you make the allusion to Heisman Trophy candidates. I don't care. I don't care. It's not as though Ohio State has had just a bunch of average dudes who can't really throw it more than 15 yards come through their program, and thank God they've got somebody to hand the rock to. C.J. Stroud, ring a bell? Justin Fields, sound familiar? Will Howard won a national title last year with these guys. They've got recent history of very talented gunslingers coming in there. Cordell Jones, for crying out loud, and doing some very impressive things at the quarterback position. Do they have a Heisman to show for it? No, but who cares? They've got a Natty to show for it last year. I think I'd rather have that.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. And I would even go as far to take it as you're saying Arch is I guess he's referring to Arch as being a Heisman Trophy, but he's not a Heisman Trophy winner. He's a hopeful.
Yes.
There's a difference between the two, Trey. So, with that being said, you mentioned about Arch played in 3 games. Out of those 3 games that he played, did he do bad? No. Now, and I'm not going to count the games that he came in for a run play.
Right.
We all knew what those were. We've talked about those many times. We knew what the design was. But the 3 games that he played was 2 of them were against a high school team, and the other one was against the bottom tier. We established what this means in Mississippi State last year. That was the only games that he won that he played in. So, can you give Arch a little bit of edge because he does have some of that? Okay, a little bit. But Julian Sayin is a good. I mean, there's a reason they went after him. There's a reason why he went to Alabama and Alabama recruited him. This boy has got talent. So, I mean, like you said, it's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of a push for that.
Well, and the other thing that we talk about to support what you're saying, we talk about the 4-star, 5-star distinguished factor there. They're all 4 stars. Okay. At that point, the 5-star just means what? That if we could, we draft this kid, but you can't. So he's really a 4-star. Both Julian Sayin and Arch Manning are 5 stars, right? So they're both outstanding talents at the quarterback position. I just don't think that the argument holds water. That one is just leaps and bounds ahead of the other.
Yeah, or I don't think the argument holds any water about when it comes to Ohio State ain't known for Heisman QBs. Neither is Texas. I mean, their best quarterback that I can remember going back. Now I'm old, so I'm going to go back a little bit further, not too far. I'm not going back into the 60s or whatever, but their best quarterback in somewhat modern time was Vince Young, Colt McCoy. Both of them good. And I don't think Colt McCoy I know Vince didn't get a Heisman. Matt Leinart got it that year, and he shouldn't have. Vince Young should have got the Heisman. I will agree with any Texas fan about that. One of the best national championships I've seen, and it was just a fantastic game between Texas and the Fighting Prophylactics that year. But still, you can't say that about Texas, that they've got all these Heisman quarterbacks. They don't.
Yeah, they've had candidates, and so has Ohio State.
That's correct. Because I do believe C.J. Stroud did go to New York.
Yes, he did.
He did. And then Donnie comes back. Oh, Donnie comes back, and he may have just moved up to the front of maybe jumped up to the bus a little bit further. He comes back and says, Ohio State is not putting up 42 on that Texas defense. Stop it.
Well done, Donnie. Your teacher is very proud, and you hadn't even gotten into class yet. It's like you're doing extra credit, and we haven't even let you in. This is fantastic. I'm excited to have you as a student.
Keep it up, buddy.
That's right.
And then this other guy, he doesn't have a name. It's just KB3 TLE, whatever, shares this YouTube video. It says, "There's this already." And it's a YouTube video. I actually watched it, and it's an AI simulated game of Ohio State and Texas, the upcoming game. And it was every play, all 4 quarters. It was interesting. There's no doubt. There was parts of me that got me pumped up, right? Because college football is getting close. It had me excited, but then it was kind of one-sided towards the end. I don't think it was a great I don't think it was a great illustration of what the game is really going to look like. It was kind of close. I mean, it was a close game, but Ohio State won at the end, and that may be the result at the end of the day. I don't know, but it was the computer that generated this, driven by some guy that's way smarter than me. to do something like that. And then I don't know. It felt good at first, then it just didn't feel right because it wasn't real.
Are we in the Matrix?
Yeah, I know, right?
Is the Earth flat? No, it's not. I mean, simulations. Let's just get to August and play some football.
Yes, I can't wait. I really cannot wait. So, yeah, that's all I've got. I got one other thing. That's all for the dog bark. It was a good dog bark. I thought it was a great first dog bark.
Great first segment. Keep those comments rolling in. We love them, and we love to spend time dismantling them.
Yes. And look, you ought to feel just as the Gooch Award and especially the Dog of the Week Award that is given out during the season, if anybody makes the dog bark list, that means your comment was good enough to discuss on the show. You should feel privileged, my friend.
You should. You
Absolutely
definitely should. Yeah.
Before we get into Tennessee's season, I got one thing that I want to say. And I hope you comment. I won't be surprised if you don't want to say anything on it. Actually, I got two things, and both of them you may not know comments. The one I just thought of real quick is I was thinking about this. Now, I know we are an SEC college football show. That's what we are. Every now and then we kind of will go out and talk about a few things here and there, whatever. But the New York Knicks NBA basketball team made it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Wow.
That means
without John Sparks and without Patrick Ewing. This is amazing.
Yes. So you can arguably say they were one of the four best teams in the NBA. And after they didn't beat Indiana beat them and to take them to the NBA Finals, they fired their coach. Now, because I am not an NBA guy anymore, I used to follow them a lot closer than I did now, back in the day, but I don't right now. I don't know all the inner workings, but I got to thinking about that. How do you take a team to the Eastern Conference Finals and they get fired? It reminded me of that movie Friday. How do you get fired on your day off? It's that ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right. I've nothing to say.
I just think about it. I was like, how do you get fired on your day off? Right. That's how dumb it was. Anyway, the other thing is, and this is one you may not want to comment on. We're going back to SEC football because you may not want to jinx yourself. I know you're not superstitious. But I read a thing the other day about the top SEC quarterbacks this year, coming in this season. And number one was Lenore Sellers. They had him as the best.
So I'm going to surprise you, and I am going to comment.
Oh, wow.
Some of the things that I am hearing, and let me say this first. We're going to move Arch over to the side. And the reason I'm going to move him over to the side is because, number one, again, he does not have a full year as starting quarterback under his belt yet. But then number two, and possibly more important than number one, it is not in his demonstrated family history to leave early. Eli graduated. Peyton graduated. Grandpa Arch graduated before they went on to careers in the NFL. So I don't think that young Arch is going to suddenly change the way that family views education and getting that degree. They value that.
And commitment.
And commitment to the program that they've signed on with. So I don't think that's going to change. So because of that, I'm going to put Arch over to the side because I don't want anybody coming back and go, Arch Manning. Yeah. Based on what else is out there starting in the SEC this coming year, I do believe that Lenoris Sellers poses the greatest upside of any other SEC quarterback. Does that mean at the end of the season he will have demonstrated that he was and is the best? No. I mean, we've got 12 regular season games to hash that out. But I do believe, based on what he showed us this past year, he certainly has the greatest upside. He's already got the NFL buzzing about where he would be drafted on day one should he come out after this next season. There are also NFL proponents that are saying that he needs to wait until 27 to have yet an additional year of maturing because of what? The unmeasured potential that this talent has. So when you bring all that back down and distill it into something that you can drink and enjoy, it is the wonderful world of Lenoris Sellers and the highlights that he will bring.
Yeah, you brought up Arch Manning about that, and a lot of people argue that Arch is the best. Would you be arguing that if it was, hey, there's a 5-star quarterback starting at Texas next year for the first time, and his last name is not Manning? Would it be the same, or is everybody saying that because everybody is hopeful that he's going to live up to his last name? Now, I hope he does. I mean, I'm pulling for Arch. I mean, I think he's a good young man from what I could tell. He's making his own way out there. He can't help it that his last name is Manning. That's not his problem, but they wouldn't be saying that if his last name was not Manning. It carries a lot of weight.
I completely agree, and I want to say this, and we've talked about it from one viewpoint, okay, in terms of the starts that he got last year, that they were glorified high school teams or Mississippi State, however you want to go with that. He played Division I football and was the starting quarterback for 3 games. He came in other moments in other games, and it's not like he was wide-eyed, ready to cry and curl up in the fetal position when he had the Georgia defensive line staring him down across his O-line. Like, this kid's good. I don't want anybody to misunderstand that. But I do completely agree. If it was any other quarterback that did not have the absolute legacy lineage that Arch has, it wouldn't be the same conversation. It wouldn't be something that you look past Lenoris Sellers toward Arch Manning. It would be these two great quarterbacks. And one of the things that Lenoris has that Arch doesn't is a full season of showing it.
That's right.
It wasn't that Lenoris came in as the starter last year at South Carolina and did some good things, showed that he's got some potential, right? Which, as a Carolina fan, I can tell you, that's happened to us a lot through the years, where we'd get a young man in here and think, well, he's going to be the greatest thing since the Heisman Trophy. And, I mean, he was good, but nothing special happened. Not with Lenoris.
9-3.
9-3. And more importantly to me, the size, the arm, the speed that he has at that position, the ability to get out of a tackle, not just a tight spot, a tackle. And he did it several times through the year as Clemson, that Lenoris has shown, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do them all very well, that Arch just hasn't shown yet. So there's an imbalance in that conversation. But yeah, I have no problem putting my check mark beside Lenoris Sellers for the best upside going into this season. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. Depending on what Arch does at Texas, does he take him to a championship? I don't know. I mean, all that remains to be said, and it'll be proven with accolades and championships, right? But going into the year, yeah, my money's on Lenoris.
Yeah. I agree. And I think, I'll say this real quick about Lenore Sellers. You talk about his size and his arm strength and all these other things, which I think is great. There's no doubt about that. But I think his quarterback IQ is really high, and it's very, very impressive. And I think, I mean, he's going to have a great season this year and we'll get into Carolina's season in a couple of weeks. There's no doubt about that. But he's going to have a great season. But his quarterback IQ is pretty top notch, man. He's an impressive kid. There's no doubt.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Now let's talk about your Tennessee. I know I'm looking at you, but that wasn't actually towards you.
I got you.
That was toward the crowd. Your Tennessee Volunteers schedule. They open up the schedule with Syracuse. Then it's ETSU. And then Georgia. You're going to get smoked.
Yeah, run and hide.
Oh, my God. Then you may have a chance with UAB. Maybe. I think, let's go through them real quick, and then we'll go over each one individual. Then UAB, and then at Mississippi State. Then you play Arkansas at home. Then you go to Tuscaloosa. Then you go to Lexington, Kentucky. Then you play Oklahoma at home. Then New Mexico State. Then you got to go to the Swamp. And then you host Vandy at home. That is your 2025 schedule, Tennessee. And so let's start at the top. Syracuse. Syracuse had a great season last year. They were a good football. Now they lost their quarterback. I think he went to. I think he's in the NFL. I believe. I hope I'm saying that right. They're not SEC, so
we don't know. We don't care.
Yeah. But I do think they lost their quarterback last year. So, but still, Syracuse is a good program. That could be a trap game for Tennessee if you ask me, because they got as you will get into it in a minute, they have a lot of holes and a lot of confusion, and they could lose that game.
Yeah, Syracuse they're one of those programs that they might have a great year or they might have an okay year. Very, very, very rarely do they have a bad year. Tennessee, as we'll get into a little bit deeper, is getting ready to go into a bad year. So to have this as game one, honestly, I've got it at a coin flip. I would, as an SEC guy, I would love to be able to tell you guys that Tennessee is going to come in there and they're going to make a great showing and they're going to be 2-0 going into Georgia. I can't say that with confidence.
No, not at all. And I was right while you were talking. I did something that, if y'all notice, we do not have our producer B-Dog with us today. He is schooling, and so he would have normally looked this up for us. But Kyle McCord was their starting quarterback, and he was a difference maker last year. He did go to Philadelphia, so that can make a difference. But next, after that, you have East Tennessee State.
That's a W.
Yeah, you got that. Then Georgia rolls into Knoxville. I'm sorry, guys. I think Georgia is going to be way too much for you guys. I got a buddy of mine, Mickey. He's got a tattoo. He's a big Tennessee guy. He's got a tattoo with something about Tennessee versus Georgia beating them up. If I was you, Mickey, I would go get rid of that tattoo. It's not going to come to fruition on September the 13th at 3:30 p.m. if Eastern Standard Time.
That's a bad slot for you to have such what I believe is going to be an embarrassing loss.
Oh my God! Get the golf ball. Oh, that's only Lane Kiffin they throw golf
Yeah, you guys need to go back and lobby to get moved to like the 12 o'clock game that week, because you're going to get completely destroyed.
Oh, for sure. And then you got University of Alabama, Birmingham. Let me get that right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. You can win that game for sure. And then you got to go to Starkville, Mississippi, and take on Mississippi State. So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance. Suddenly we're on a winning streak.
That's right, Lloyd Christmas. There's a chance. And then the Fighting Pittmans, Arkansas, rolls into Knoxville. You lose.
They're gonna pop your balloon.
Yeah, you're done. And then you go, like I said earlier, then you roll into Tuscaloosa. Sorry.
Now we're on a losing streak.
Yeah. The things have shifted.
Yes.
The seas were angry, my friend. And then that losing streak, and we'll talk about this one for a moment. That losing streak, in my opinion, stays because then you go to Kentucky. Now, don't base that game off of last year's Kentucky season. The good thing is Brett Vander Griffgroff is not under center at Kentucky. And as much as I don't like Stoops, and I don't, he's had a lot of good success at Kentucky. He was considered a year or two ago to potentially be a front runner to take over the Fighting Flobies in Florida. I think that kind of squashed with his last year's season, but I think Kentucky bounces back this season and is not going to be as bad and could potentially beat Tennessee.
I don't disagree with that. This is kind of a hinge point game for me, and I'll get to that more in a little bit. But if you roll into this game against Kentucky the way that we're projecting here, this becomes quite possibly one of the most important games of your season, Tennessee fan, because this is where you find out your real viability as a bowl team. Kentucky is coming in with some solid players. Zach Calzada transferring in from Auburn. I don't want to get too deep into Kentucky's roster because, again, we'll talk about that a lot later. But this is not last year's Kentucky. This is going to be a solid team that you're going to go up against. And I just got to tell you, a lot like the Syracuse game, I can't put a solid feel on this. If I had to place a bet today, which I'm not a betting guy, so this is pretty easy for me. If I had to place a bet today, I'm putting it on Stoops and the Wildcats for that game.
Maybe so. Then you go on to take on Oklahoma at home. I think Venables is going to have a better season this year. I think he was coming around towards the end of the season. I think that Alabama win last season gave him some extra confidence in his ability, and I think they'll be better. That's probably a loss for Tennessee.
Yep.
And look, I know all of you guys that are listening to the show going, but wait a minute. Yes, I understand that they lost Nico. We get that. But it's Tennessee. They went to the playoffs, for crying out loud, last season. Yes, you did. And yes, that was last season. But when we get finished going through these games, you will really understand why we're saying what we're saying. Because when the chicken starts talking about what they lost and what their individual rooms look like, their quarterback room, their wide receiver room, the defensive side of the ball, then that's where this thing is going to make a full circle. So just hang tight with us, guys. Your next game, I think your losing streak just ended. You will play New Mexico State. And then you have to go on to the Swamp and play DJ Lagway and the Fighting Flobies. Asked Lane Kiffin last year how hard it is to play in the Swamp.
Yeah,
right?
they're gonna cut your hair. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna
Yeah.
lose to the Gators in the swamp at the end of the year, right? Like we saw what happened with Florida at the end of the season last year. They got better and better and better. They're coming into this season off of the improvement that they made last season, and with the coach that Napier is, I believe that improvement will continue.
I do too.
It's gonna be a long 2025, guys.
Yes, and then you close out your season as you always do against the Anchor Downs. And look, man, the good thing is you have to play Vandy at home, so that's good. But man, if Pavi is able to hang in there and keep that starting role and not get kicked out of college football, woof.
Hey, Bert.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, that could be a very challenging game for Tennessee, no doubt.
So again, just like with Kentucky, looking at things right now, my money's on Vanderbilt to win that game. My money is on Vanderbilt to hand Tennessee an embarrassing 25 campaign.
Yeah, and you're basing that off of who's returning and who's not, right? So Nico and all those people left, and you'll get to that in just a second. But we're also basing that off of Pavia coming back.
Right.
Is it Pavia, Ernie? Hey, Bert.
Hey, Bert.
So anyway, I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I think if I had to put some money on that today, my money would be on Vandy. There's no doubt about that.
This will bring us to, I
Go
don't
ahead.
know, at least the first chicken scratch moment of this episode. I don't know if there'll be a second one. They just come to me. Okay. But this one here is pretty important. Coming off of the season that you guys had last year in 24, which was amazing. Did you deserve to be there? Based on your playoff performance, it didn't look like it. However, I digress. 2025, the over-under I'm putting at, and I want to know what you think about this. Chicken scratch moment, over-under 5 wins for Tennessee. Does Tennessee go from a playoff team to even the ability to get to a bowl game at all?
Ooh. Well, according to my calculations, I've got them at least at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses, and I gave them a win against Syracuse and Mississippi State. As far as Syracuse is at conference, but I gave them I think their only true conference win, is Mississippi State next year.
It's looking that way. I think the Pittmans are going to win. I think the Tide is going to roll. I think the Wildcats are going to beat Tennessee in Knoxville. I think Oklahoma is going to win. I think that all of those, I'm going to call them margin games, right? Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, maybe even Florida as a margin game for Tennessee, for the historic Tennessee program. I think I'll go in the loss column. We're betting hard that Georgia is going to be a loss, that Alabama is going to be a loss, right? Like those are almost givens in the L column. I think the margin games go in the L column too. So I think you're right. I think Mississippi State might end up being their only conference victory this year.
Yeah. And look, as you listened on the last episode when we talked about Georgia's depth, and who's returning to Georgia, who did Georgia pick up, blah, 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 blah. It's pretty impressive what Georgia has on the roster right now. On paper, Georgia looks fantastic. But does Tennessee? And that's where I'm going to let the chicken get into their depth, man, because that is what we're basing. We're not basing this off of Nico leaving. We're basing this off of what you're about to go over.
So I'm going to do something that I don't normally do with other teams, and that is I'm going to give you a little bit of hope. First, I'm going to tell you, just like a Baptist minister at a revival, how bad things are. And then I'm going to give you some hope about what may be coming. Well, the Baptist minister will give you hope about what is most certainly coming. I didn't go to seminary, so bear with me. Your quarterback room lost a lot. That is the origin of your house fire.
Mm-hmm.
And to save the day, you've got Joey Aguilar. Someone so confident in his abilities that he transferred to UCLA only to hear that Nico was coming. So a day later, he left UCLA. That's the confidence that your starting quarterback has. Not good. Okay. Now, some hope. I believe that 4-star redshirt freshman Jake Merklinger is the future for the Tennessee Volunteers. When will the future begin? 3 games in? 4? 6? He's going to be starting at some point this year. Just don't know when yet. The running back position. Hoy, did you guys lose a lot? Your top returning back is Deshaun Bishop, who ran for 455 yards last year.
Samson went to the draft, right?
Samson went in the draft. You guys have a 3-man crew running by committee. The top back is Star Thomas, oddly enough. The kid's name is Star. Transferred in. He ran for 876 yards last year. So, okay, cool. You got that going for you. So it's not a bad running back room, but it's not anything that you want to beat your chest up against Georgia about or Alabama and say, well, stop this guy, because teams like that are going to say, okay, right? Now what? Your wide receiver room. Guys, this is not good. This is not good at all. You have the least amount of game experience in this room. Right, like Cub Scout level. Your starter, Chris Brazel II. I don't know how partial he is to that second. Played in 13 games last year, 58 targets, 29 receptions. Not stellar. 333 yards. Not stellar. And 2 touchdowns. Nothing to brag about here. He's your number 1 guy on this depth chart. Mike Matthews is currently in the portal. Now, he could come back, but he's currently in the portal. He played in 11 games with 13 targets. Not stellar. 7 catches.
He's about 50%.
And about 90 yards through the air.
That's pretty good.
Now, of those 7 receptions, 2 of them were for touchdowns. So that when you break it down that way, that's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
But I digress. He's currently in the portal. Braylon Staley, 4-star redshirt freshman. He only played in 3 games. I won't go through the rest of the stat line. A lot like Arch. It was 3 games. 3 games. So you haven't shown me a lot yet. Amari Jefferson is transferring in from Alabama. Redshirt freshman. That's exciting, right? We're getting excited. Travis Smith Jr., true freshman. Radarius Jackson, true freshman. There's a lot of youth. So here's some of that hope. We just talked about it with Merklinger at the quarterback position. I believe that Heupel is building a program. I don't think, and a lot of this has to do with NIL, right? Like I said, Nico burnt their house down. But Heupel is coming back in, and he's laying a solid foundation to build something. Is it going to be this year? Probably not. But the wide receiver room, although extremely inexperienced and pretty doggone young, is going to produce something that can draw the attention, if Merklinger ends up not being your guy, of someone that could transfer in to Tennessee for next season, for 2026. So there is hope here. Your tight end position, probably your best room on the entire roster. Okay. A senior in Miles Kisselman, You've got a redshirt sophomore with Ethan Davis, redshirt freshman with Cole Harrison, 4-star, 3-star, 4-star, and 4-star Deshaun Brame and Jack Vander something or other, both true freshmen coming in here. Okay, sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right, but it's a whole lot of letters and I'm dyslexic, so live with it. There's a lot going on to be very excited about with the tight ends at Tennessee. So again, hope. Your offensive line. Well, your left guard and your right guard just transferred in here. So not a lot of chemistry there, but 3 out of the 5 played together last year. So not as much growing together, you hope. Let's go down to the defense. Defensive line, they're okay. Okay, a lot of 4-stars there at the top, sprinkled in with a 3-star in Jackson Moy, but he's a true senior. Tyree West is a true senior. Joshua Joseph, so you've got experience there. Dominic Bailey, redshirt senior. Bryson Eason, redshirt senior. These guys are coming together. This is their opportunity to prove what they're worth. So your defensive front, I believe, is going to be pretty solid. Again, hope. Now, hope can be dangerous, my friends, and let the linebackers tell you why. They're not looking all that great. Okay. Arian Carter is a 4-star. Jeremiah Tellander is a 3-star. Both juniors, both played in all 13 games last year, but not really any impressive stats to talk about. Edwin Spillman is a redshirt freshman. He's a 4-star player, but only played in 4 games. Caleb Herring is a 4-star junior, played in 12 of the 13 games last year. So, but again, nothing stellar to talk about in the stat lines. These guys weren't lighting it up with almost 90 tackles or 80 tackles or even 70 tackles. Your top returning tackler in the linebacker class is Arian Carter with 43 tackles last year, 0 sacks. So there goes a little bit of that hope. That's why I don't know that you're going to win more than 5. Your defensive backfield. I would say that these guys are right up there with your defensive line in terms of hope for the defense. It's up in the air as whether or not Jeremy McCoy is going to be able to play this next season. I believe he's battling with an injury there, but he's your top returner in the defensive backfield. Ricky Gibson is currently in the portal. We don't know where he's going to land. Redshirt senior Andre Tutorine, Boo Carter, a sophomore. So you've got a lot of experience there. 13 games played, 12 games, 13, 5 games for Idris Farouk, 13 games for Jalen McMurray, 13 games for Colton Hood, who just transferred in from Auburn. And then we've got a bunch of commitments and true freshmen here. So again, Heupel is building something. There is hope for tomorrow for the Volunteers. If I were you, I would volunteer to take the year off and let everything else hash itself out. Let's just come back and try again in 26.
Yeah, one of the things you kept talking about was hope, and so I wrote down, are you a glass half full kind of guy?
I think with a coach like Heupel, I think you have to be. If you were looking at this season, this upcoming season, with some of the other coaches that we've talked about, I don't know, Muschamp. If you're looking at this same set of players, then you're a glass half empty. But you've got Josh Heupel, and I said this in a previous episode. I think he's building good things at Tennessee. Okay, you had something that affected your program in a way that, in my opinion, affected your program in a way that it hasn't affected any other program in the country. Other big players have left for better NIL deals or starting positions or whatever in this modern era of transfer portal and NIL money, but none left the absolute devastation that Nico did when he left Tennessee. It was ugly. He dumped kerosene all over the living room and lit a cigar and walked. And it shows. Your depth chart painfully shows. I don't know why. And for all I know, it was because Merklinger is the future and Heupel knows that. So maybe that's why they didn't make any big chase over any other names in the portal. Maybe it was because of what Nico did and when he did it, the timing of when he did it to Tennessee. But it really left the cupboard bare. But again, for me, Heupel is the key. And that's why I say over a Muschamp or anybody like that. I think that Heupel is what actually provides this overall hope and has me seeing the glass half full.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wrote down while you were ranting,
I'm known to do that.
yeah, was the fact Josh Heupel. I just wrote the name because let's say that they do go 5-7. God forbid they go 4-8 this year. I'm because I'm an SEC guy. I'm a Georgia to the core, but I'm also going to always pull for the SEC, and that includes the Tennessee Volunteers. Even though I don't necessarily care for a lot of the they got some. Actually, all teams have rude and obnoxious fans. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. So I won't even go there. But I'm going to root for Tennessee, right? Like you said, Josh Heupel, I think, is a good coach. I think it would be catastrophic to your program if Josh Heupel was to go, if Tennessee was to go to 4-8 or 5-7 or even a 6-6, and you can this dude. In other words, in my opinion, what I think you should do is actually give this guy a raise because I say he's building something. But more importantly, these guys, Josh Heupel and the Tennessee program, stood up to greed when it comes to Nico, and they set a precedence, I think, that is needed in the college football. I think Heupel's a good coach. I think he has the potential to be a great coach at some point with the Tennessee Volunteers. Stick with this guy no matter what your season happens. It's not, I guess it's ultimately his fault and the program's fault that they didn't cater to greed, but I think that they would have been in worse shape anyway if they would have. So you guys did the right thing. Stick with your coach. I think he's good, and I think he's good for the Tennessee. I think he's good for Tennessee and he's good for the SEC is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I'll back you up on this. I think that it's way too easy to point the finger at the coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you've had a less than impressive season, and I think that's what Tennessee is headed into. But I do believe that Heupel is exactly what the Volunteers need. I do believe that he's building something special there. If you make a knee-jerk change after what's probably going to be a rough year, then you're only going to set yourself back even further. And I don't believe that Tennessee wants to do that. I think they've got some smart people in the athletic office there. I think their AD knows what he's doing there. I don't know that they're going to give the guy a raise. I don't know they're going to bring Josh in after 4 wins and say, hey, we've decided to give you more money, right?
If he does, I get 10%.
I was going to say, Josh, if that's the deal, let me know if you need the chicken on staff because I'm available. But past that, I think that they're going to stick with this guy. Now, how long? How long will they stick? Will they stick with him for consecutive 4-win seasons or consecutive non-bowl appearance seasons? I don't know. But I don't think that Tennessee's in danger of that. I just feel like this is going to be an adjustment year, and I think that you can really offload almost all of that responsibility onto the absolute circus that was Nico's departure.
I got a question for you.
Ooh, bring it.
Here we go. You ready?
I am.
Is Josh Heupel, and I want all of our fans, whether you're a Tennessee fan or not, anybody that listens to this show and listens to what I'm fixing to ask, I want the comments to flood in because I think this is a good question. And I think it's good because I came up with it. So there's that. But is Josh Heupel a good enough coach to prove the Chicken and the Dawg wrong about their 2025 season?
Good question. I would say yes, but no. I think he's a good enough coach. I really do. I think he's got solid roots in this game. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he can recruit, right? Both existing players through the portal and incoming freshmen. I think he has everything that Tennessee needs as a coach. I think he's a great coach. I just don't think that he's got enough weapons, enough players to do it this year. Again, Nico burnt the house down. He's dealing with rubble right now and what they could salvage. I think that that's a massive handicap to undertake, and I just don't see him doing it this year.
So do you think there's any coach out there that could overcome what the mountain that's standing in front of him?
No.
Okay.
I don't think that if you called Nick Saban tomorrow and said, would you come into Tennessee and show us how it's done? I don't think Nick Saban is doing a whole lot better. Now, would he do better than Heupel? I mean, sure, he's Nick Saban, but don't take that to mean that he would get them to a bowl game or that he would get them to the playoffs. I don't believe that at all. I just feel like there's too much damage by what happened in the offseason for anybody to do great things with Tennessee. One of my favorite questions to ask when the firing bug happens at pick a university is, well, who are you going to get?
Yeah.
Right? If this isn't your guy and you're ready to kick him out the door, tell me who you're honestly going after. Now, anytime that there becomes an opening in the coaching carousel, we all, and I'm finally going to include us in the media, we all in the greater college football media will come up with potential. It's got no merit. Of course, they're going to call Lane Kiffin, and Lane's going to go, no, been there, done that. I'm not going back. You people throw batteries at me, right? Like that ain't going to happen. So, but there's always going to be a list. In the next couple of years, on most of those lists are probably going to be, could we call Nick Saban?
Mm-hmm.
Would he come out of retirement to come here? The answer is no, he won't. No. He's happy doing what he's doing, right? I think that a lot of that whole parlor trick is going to be proven less than beneficial after what I think is going to happen at North Carolina this season with Belichick, right? So reaching back into the history of football success and bringing a guy forward, I don't think it's going to happen a whole lot anymore. So when you're looking at who's available right now that's not retired, who's available right now that's an up-and-comer, if you fire Heupel, where are you going? Who's your call? No, who's your call that's going to return your call and say, yes, I'll take over that dumpster fire?
It won't be Kirby.
It won't be any of them.
No.
It won't be any of them. I will be one of the first people to say, as an avid, absolute Gamecock fan, that Tennessee has a much more impressive historical football program than the University of South Carolina. No doubt about it. We're building, but you guys have built, right? Shane Beamer, with all of the notoriety that he's catching and all of the eyebrows that he's raising about what a good coach he is, an up-and-coming coach like Shane Beamer is not going to Knoxville to put up with all of that right now. So it's not from a standpoint of, well, you're stuck with Heupel. In my view, Volunteers, you should be thankful that you have this guy.
I agree.
That he didn't sit there and look at the cupboard and go, well, it's been nice, but I'm going somewhere else, even if I got to take a year off and be a commentator for the ACC.
You don't think it'd be a commentator for the SEC?
I don't know. They've got a pretty solid crew. You got Tim Tebow on there, and Roman Harrison's on there. Jordan Rogers is on. I think they're set right now with the SEC crew. And I was making fun of the ACC, but whatever. Maybe the Sun Belt needs some help. The point that I'm making is you should be glad you got Heupel, that Heupel stuck around after Nico split, and that Heupel is, in fact, the kind of coach that says, this is Tennessee football. I'm Tennessee football. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get through this together. And I think he'll pull them straight on through. Again, it ain't going to be this year. It's not going to be in 25. But I think he will pull them through. And I believe that in 26, Tennessee is going to be just as dangerous as they were in 24.
Yeah, I think so too. I think once that new quarterback, that freshman quarterback gets under center mid-season of 2025 is what I would project what's going to probably happen. I mean, because I don't think the other guy's your future. I think you're going to have to go with this new kid. Um, I think you're going to see the groundwork starting to be laid and coming out. And like you said, I think it could help dig into the portal for next season. Maybe flip a couple recruits that were committed to other places, and then yeah, I think his future is bright at Tennessee. Heupels is. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good guy. He doesn't run his mouth that much. I think he just wants to coach football and coach his program. So
So
all in all,
that's going to bring us to our second and last chicken scratch moment of this episode. By the way, the first moment was also brought to you by the same people that are bringing you the second chicken scratch moment, and that is Off the Chain Kennels, OTC Kennels on Facebook and Instagram. Check these guys out. They know how to get something done with champions.
that's
They've
right.
been doing it. They're going to keep on doing it. And I believe that Heupel is that same guy. My question, the chicken scratch moment here is, how many seasons, and we're going to discount as just like a bid opportunity. I'm throwing out the worst, the low, and I'm throwing out the highest of the highs. I want the meat of the conversation. So folks, you can reply in your comments to us this next week. We'd love to get those comments and address them, both intelligent and not so much, on our next show. But how many seasons does it take Heupel to bring them back? Not rebuild. I don't think that he needs to completely rebuild, but to bring them back. He's got to replenish to the level that they were threatening to be at. I don't believe that Tennessee was a championship caliber team last year. They were a playoff team. Well, they earned their way in, so it's hard to argue against it. But I don't believe that they were going to win a championship, right? But how long does it take Heupel to get them back? And if you're an anti-Tennessee guy and you say he'll never bring him back, I'm not counting your comment. You're off, pal. Bring me something intelligent. If you're super pro Tennessee, orange for life, sherbet is what you guys are really wearing. But anyway, if you're that guy and you say he's going to do it this year, we're going to go undefeated, I'm not paying attention to you either. I want the intelligent and even semi-intelligent people to respond. How many seasons before they're back?
Do I fall in that category?
This is one of those moments where you could earn your way back on the bus.
Oh.
Just letting you know. I want you to be forewarned.
If I had to answer that question, and I don't want to give our viewership an answer that they can just copy, we do want your own opinions. But I would say that I could see them in the playoffs in 27. Winning the whole thing, I don't know. I think success is playoffs.
Yes.
And they had success in 24. They made it to the playoffs in 24. They didn't go far in the playoffs. They were one and done. I think they got beat by a really great team. There's no doubt about that. But also, if that virus that was in their locker room that caused this fire was in their locker room last year, that was present. So I think that had an effect on that. There's no doubt about that. But I think 27, they're back in it because it's Tennessee. It's Tennessee, for crying out loud. They're a storied program. So
Absolutely.
and they have a good coach. So I think 27 season, they could be back in the playoffs.
That's a good, solid answer. It's one that will not put you back on the bus. Good for you. You get to stay on the sidewalk. Congratulations.
Yes. Maybe I'll get on the long bus soon.
We'll see. We'll see.
But look, guys, man, hey, thank y'all for listening to us, man. I know we probably got a little long-winded today, but we had a lot of good content, a lot of stuff to talk about. Tennessee's program in itself has a lot to talk about. They've had a lot of things that's happening there. But, all in all, we'll see what happens, man. You got anything else?
I am all crowed out.
All right, guys, look, listen to us, like us, and for the love of God, subscribe to us. We need those subscriptions, man. It helps grow this audience and grow us and keeps us going. Love you. Deuces.
Bye.